Welcome to the Set to Lead podcast, the online mentoring platform for emerging and current leaders. My name is Marianne Samdi, leadership coach and talent development expert, and I will be your host. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. The focus of today's show is on navigating career changes. Before we get started, though, tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah, let me start by saying that I spent many years doing work that was really fulfilling in the biotech space from the perspective of being a finance and strategy professional. And the journey that I'd gone on in that world was one that really felt great in the sense that I was making an impact in a space that really is helping a lot of people to transform their lives. It's really amazing. But I always felt like there was something missing. Mm-hmm. So that was.
So you felt something was missing and you decided to change paths yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I think what really happened for me was as people would reflect on me, like, you're not the typical finance guy. You're the typical finance person in general. And I would show up in a way that I'd be focused on people. I was focused on how can I help people get to where they need to be, even while I was doing the job of a finance person. Mm-hmm. And when I heard this feedback, I'd often say, yeah, I hear you, but this is what I'm trained to do. I'm a finance person. Putting myself in my own little box, if you will. Right. And eventually that got old and I had to start listening to the clues that were being laid in front of me. And it all came to a head in this one moment that I had where I was sitting in a boardroom and realizing that I can no longer accept, this paycheck that I'm receiving and not do the things that I'm really meant to be doing, which is to make an impact directly on people's lives and help them to really create the world that they're meant to be living in.
Yeah. So hence a new book coming out where you, I would imagine, depict a lot of these stories in this book called Climbing the Right Mountain. Tell the audience a little bit about that book.
Yeah. So this one's close to my heart because there's an element of this, which is about my journey, but also about, wanting more for other people. At the core of all this, it's about finding fulfillment, both professionally and personally. And it's about changing and challenging your perspective on what you're pursuing. Oftentimes people choose a path to pursue, what they think they should be doing. And sometimes it's filtered through what society says this is what you should want. And I think we should be really thinking differently about that. They climb to the top of their own mountain based on what they think they should be climbing. And they discover they don't like who they've become. And there's something about what they've become that they've had to sacrifice the things they care about along that path. And it's not fulfilling. So the book is really about, how can I change course and think differently about that process.
Thank you so much, by the way, for writing this book, because I think it's essential for most of the population. I think there's a lot of people out there who think they might be climbing the wrong mountain. And you just mentioned when you're on the wrong mountain, you don't like who you are. Yeah. Are there other signs for folks when you're on the wrong mountain?
Yeah. There's a lot of signs that show up. One of the most immediate signs is when, you get up in the morning and you feel like you're pushing yourself to go to work, right? And you say to yourself, like, I'll be happy when I, get to that next milestone or when I get to that position that I really want. And some people have their sight set on the C level. They say, like, I want to be the CEO and I'm not going to rest until I get there. And then I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. That mindset is a sure sign that there's something might be at the heart of this challenge, this climb that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel yourself like you lost your passion for the work that you're doing, those are all signs that you might be on the wrong path.
What are some questions you can ask yourself around next steps when you figure it out, when you get that aha moment, I'm on the wrong path, and you decide to do something about it? Are there any questions you can ask yourself around next steps?
Yeah. Well, it's perfect you mentioned this, because this is exactly the thing that I want people to be questioning themselves on. And the first thing that comes to mind is something you're probably not expecting. But I'm a huge fan of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't know, it's a timeless classic. And I always say, begin with the end in mind. But this time, as you're stepping back and thinking differently about your path, really understand what you want, not what your past self has wanted and what, society has told you should want, but what do you really want, given the things that you have, what you value, reassess the things that are important to you at this point. A couple of questions that come to mind are, what do you want to experience in life? Like, what do you value? And what do you want to contribute? And I know these questions are like very big questions, but when you have the lens of like, if I were to hit the reset button in my life right now and disregard all the things that have happened up to this point, and it's just temporary, what would I do? That's why these questions are important. And once you step back and you've reframed those perspectives, then you can step back on the path and use that new energy, that new vision to create something different. So,
do you think there's a difference between purpose and fulfillment?
Absolutely. I absolutely think so. Fulfillment is something where, purpose, I'll start with fulfillment. Fulfillment is something where you don't, it's not a place to go to. It's actually something to feel. It's a mindset. So you can feel fulfilled on the journey by thinking to yourself, like, I want to be happy in the moment. I want to be feeling as though I'm experiencing a life that is in alignment with the things that I care about. Mm-hmm. Whereas purpose is, I'm on this planet to create X, Y, and Z. My purpose is to execute on these particular things. They're two different things, because one is more about, am I finding fulfillment in what I'm doing, mm-hmm. in the way I'm being? And really, it's more the latter, about the being part. And purpose is more about, what is it that I want to create in this world?
And I find that some people, they get so absorbed with finding purpose that they can't live a life of fulfillment and just enjoy the journey. They run themselves ragged because they don't know what they should be doing. And sometimes I think the purpose has to come to you. You can't always chase after it. What are your thoughts around that?
Oh, I absolutely love that. I mean, there's this element of that like the things that you're meant to be doing in the world, your purpose, they start to come to you when you start to move towards it. Mm-hmm. So one of the coaching exercises I do with people is that I really talk about like treating your life like a research laboratory. I come from the science background, so this is kind of how this all plays out. But the reality is, we have to treat like different things that show up in our lives as opportunities to experiment, to test things out, and then see what comes out of that. What am I learning? What am I loving about the things that are showing up? And what am I not liking? Mm-hmm. What's working? What's not working? And those things are all parts of the process to lead you towards the things you're to do more of.
Right. What about, someone who is able to discover the experiences they love and the experiences they want to entertain and their values, but then they realize what they love doesn't satisfy their livelihood?
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
I hear you. And that's, That's one of the things that I run into a lot with people, because it's like, yeah, I really want this to happen. How do I make it happen? Tell me. And I'm like, well, there's this thing that I talk about, and it's maybe not me inventing it, but I like to call it the portfolio approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the great thing about it is it's thinking, well, how can I maintain some source of some source of income, a day job?
Yeah.
I create that next path that is really meant for me. So it's not like you're taking this approach of like going all in and spending 100% of your time into creating that future, and then finding yourself like, worried about money all the time. Instead, start with small steps that allow you to take shape over time. And so eventually, when you look back and you say, wow, I'm ready to take that big leap now, because I've really been able to shape and form that thing that I really want. And now it's got enough legs on it that it will be able to stand on its own.
Right. So you don't have to do everything all at once. Take it, chunk it out.
Exactly. In fact, it's funny because we're talking about the mountain, and, I love to climb. And one of the things about climbing a mountain is that you can't run up a mountain, because when you get to altitudes that are really high, what happens is oxygen is really it starts to be hard to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And so to acclimate, oftentimes you got to go slowly. In fact, so slowly at times that it's like you're crawling. So take the time to breathe, take it step by step, and reflect on what you're experiencing as you go along the path. And I think that's really makes a difference. And that's why I like this mountain analogy, because it really fits with the way we navigate life.
Now that you've changed and you've transitioned into this new field, Tony, are you happy?
Absolutely. I mean, I have my moments when I'm like, challenged, definitely. But happiness is something that I'm coming from. I choose to be happy. I choose to be hopeful. I choose to be an optimist. And when those days come when I'm feeling a little down, I create my happiness through gratitude. I look back and I say, wow, look how far I've come. Look at the people I've impacted. Look at the things that I've created. And that is where I can turn my mood around and start seeing, yeah, I'm not so bad off.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Any encouragement for someone out there who is currently discouraged and frustrated with the mountain they're currently climbing?
Yeah. So first of all, I think, no matter what age, gender, race, you can create a new path. And it starts by creating some space to reframe your situation, to really step away from being in in the climb, and connecting with what you really want to experience in life. And then you can set a new course. And once you do that, you have to remind yourself, you're the one who's writing your story. Nobody else is. And when you know that you have that in control, then it gives you the power to make decisions on your behalf. Now, I know the world can be really challenging at times, and there's a lot of things that, out there that can be pushing in against you. But keep in mind, what do I have control of? How I show up, my attitude. Those are things that are important.
Yeah. Thanks for this conversation, Tony. I'm definitely looking forward to your new book. Before we end the show today, let the audience know how they can follow you and your work.
Oh, absolutely. It's been an honor, by the way. I really appreciate you giving me this space to talk with you today. The best place to find me is on my website. I can't talk today. InspiredPurposeCoach.com is my website. And I'm also could be found on LinkedIn, as well as all the other social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and what have you. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation. I love talking to new people and, seeing what I can do to help them create the future they want.
Thank you, Tony.
Absolutely.